All right, we can all just take a deep breath and calm down as the Bulls somehow got this victory. But it was a disastrous fourth quarter, and we have a lot to talk about here. I normally start out by kind of recapping the game, looking at some team stats, going through chronologically, but we're not going to do that today. We're going to jump right into the fourth quarter and talk about what went wrong and what was some of the good that the Bulls need to continue doing. I'm going to show you some film, mostly the good stuff in the film. Can't really show you the bad stuff right now because obviously, I can't really show the entire game. But we're going to kind of break it down and kind of talk about what the Bulls need to do moving forward from here on out to help their late game execution. I apologize if this is coming out a little bit later because I recorded an entire video and it wasn't recording apparently. So I apologize if this is being posted late. But welcome back to the DeSlamDuncan YouTube channel. We're going to really break this down here. But the Bulls, if you do not know, got a victory in Toronto, 111-108. Bulls are now 4-0 for the season. And the Bulls took care of the teams that they needed to win against at the start of the season. As now moving forward, it's going to be a rough stretch moving forward from here on out. But the Bulls got this win in Toronto. This score does not really show the entire game as the Bulls blew a 20-point lead basically. And we're going to kind of get into it. But before we get into it though, make sure you hit the like button if you're new to the channel. Hit the subscribe button. Let's talk fourth quarter immediately here. As I want to actually kind of start out at like beginning fourth quarter. So some context. The Bulls went into halftime leading by 10. They ended the third quarter leading by 12. The Bulls had a 20-point lead in the beginning of the third quarter, but it got dwindled down to 12. This whole fourth quarter meltdown, though, which a lot of Bulls fans saw, it was not good. It was not good to see. And luckily, DeMar DeRozan saved us today. And I'm going to get into DeMar DeRozan in a second here. But I want to talk about execution first off. Because this was just overall bad. And I want to talk about the beginning of the fourth quarter, like early fourth quarter. Because this is when the meltdown actually kind of started. This is when things started going bad initially. And we saw this last year with this Bulls team. We saw that at the beginning of the fourth quarter, we would give up a lead. It's just right when that fourth quarter hit, this Bulls team would just all of a sudden be screwed. Now, luckily, this Bulls team, we had that 12-point lead. We didn't give it up immediately. Our defense kind of kept us in it and kept the lead for us, but it was already starting to go bad. The Raptors started doing a half-court press at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and we saw that this Bulls team, for some odd reason, just could not get past this half-court press very easily. Like, we would get past it, we'd get into the front court, but what this was doing is that it would slow down the offense so much that the Bulls, once we got into the front court, we were kind of already down to 14 seconds left in the shot clock once things started to get settled, and that's not enough time to run your offense, right? So we saw a lot of Lonzo and Levine step backs. We saw a lot of quick shots that didn't need to be taken. Because we were like, we can't run a play, so you just take the shot now. It was just not good. And when you see this team and you see that this Bulls team has all these ball handlers with them, like you have Lonzo, you have Levine, DeRozan, Caruso, it's just not good to see that this Bulls team can't get the ball into the front court in a half-court press. That's just not good to see at all. So not good stuff there. Donovan needs to work out with who's going to be handling the ball. And who needs to be where to get past something like a half-court press so we can get into the offense much quicker and get quality shots. Defensively, the Bulls, I think, were okay, but we started to see, once we start missing shots, it's kind of harder to stop guys in transition, which is, that's just truth for every NBA team. So the defense is all right, but it started to not look too good once we started missing the shots and Raptors were out in transition. Now, let's move into then crunch time, which is when we really saw the Raptors implement a full court press. So right when the Bulls inbounded the ball, you saw the Raptors double team the guy who got the ball. And the Bulls had so many issues just getting it out of the backcourt and into the front court. We would usually get it into the front court, but it would be just a disaster once we got into the front court. It was either a bad possession or it was a turnover. It was just overall bad. And I'm going to kind of talk about what Donovan needs to do, because Donovan needs to do a lot with this team. For whatever reason, no matter who's in the Bulls uniform, once that fourth quarter hits, it's just everything just goes downhill. I guarantee you we could have a whole new 15-man roster tomorrow, and we would somehow, if we would be leading at the into the fourth quarter, we would be in absolute panic mode in that fourth quarter and in crunch time. It doesn't matter who's on this team. It's just how it goes for some odd reason. The Bulls are just cursed when it comes to this. But in the full court press, the Bulls did not do a very good job against this Raptors full court press, because we saw this Bulls team give it to the wrong people. We saw them that they couldn't get it past the full court press with enough time left to then run their offensive set. We saw guys just, they did not know where to go. And I want to talk about this a little bit. So first off, we need to talk about Vucevic, because I think Donovan was not using Vucevic right at all. It was not good what I saw from where Vucevic was being placed in the full court press and trying to get around it. So a lot of the time we saw Vucevic, he was standing up here, which I think the idea is that he's in the middle of the floor, so you can throw it to him. He's a big body, so that he can pass it to whoever. But the problem with that is you're making Vucevic then have to play around this half court line, and he's already too far away for this. If anything, I think you should move Vucevic all the way down to like where the basket to the Raptors basket, right? Put him under the rim, because what that does is that that takes a defender with him. So, if you leave Vucevic up here, let's say the Bulls are inbounding here. If you leave Vucevic up here to like be involved in the inbound action, that allows his defender to be into the full court press. We do not want his defender up into the full court press at all. We want as much space as possible, and we see that spacing becomes quite an issue when you have all these guys surrounding like this one area, and the Bulls can't inbound the ball very easily. So take Vucevic and just throw him all the way down and put him under the rim. All right, that's the idea with Vucevic. I don't know why Donovan's having him up here. The other option with Vucevic is that you have him inbound the ball, but then the thing is that allows his defender to be in the inbound action, and that's the biggest guy in the court. So I don't like the idea either. So just move Vucevic, just put him down on the other side of the court. Now, what the Bulls needed to really work on, which is something I thought that they had figured out, but I guess they didn't, is when you inbound the ball, you cannot be standing in a corner, right? When you inbound it, like it's okay to like stand in the corner, but there needs to be a release valve immediately to get it out of that corner, because we saw this Bulls team get trapped right here, for example. I know it's not like we're inbounding here, but just imagine the Bulls, they inbound it from here, they inbound it to the guy right here, they would immediately get trapped. And one of the ways to get around something like that is you need to implement a guy in the middle of the floor. So this needs to be a guy like Lonzo or DeRozan. They need to be like in the middle of the floor right here, because if you're in the middle of the floor, you cannot get double teamed, right? It's very hard to double team a guy that's in the middle of the floor. Also, you're not being guarded by the baseline or the out of bounds line, right? So you have all the space to work with. Also, you just have all these different passing angles that you just don't have if you're standing near the baseline, right? So there needs to be someone that needs to get the ball in the middle of the floor right here, because then the Raptors have to then really get back to their guy. If they don't, then the Bulls easily get into the front court, and it could be an easy layup. So that needs to happen. I don't know who it needs to be. Honestly, I like the idea of Lonzo inbounding, but he didn't do that good of a job inbounding today. Maybe it's Caruso that inbounds it, and you put Lonzo up here. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing out ideas, but Billy Donovan needs to work on this. Like this cannot happen again. What we saw today. I'm glad that the Bulls faced adversity before we hit this 13-game stretch of tough teams, but this needs to get fixed immediately. Like we do not have time to figure this out. We need to get this fixed in the next practice. So put a guy right here. Have Levine or Lonzo, whoever that your main guys who you want bringing the ball up, run around on these on the side here, because having a guy in the middle right here, if these guys then clear out, right, it's either they're going to get the ball because they're open, or then the guy in the middle right here is already halfway through the backcourt. They can just dribble it up into the front court. Pretty simple, right? Now, other thing that I saw that was just such an absolute travesty by Billy Donovan was when you put Vucevic up here, there was a play where Vucevic got the ball and then he dribbled it into the front court, and then he turned the ball over. He almost traveled, but then he turned the ball over. That's unacceptable, all right? This Bulls team has 4 ball handlers: Lonzo, Levine, DeRozan, Caruso. And all 4 of these guys are on the floor right now in crunch time. And we trust this lineup on the floor because it's such a good lineup. You have all these ball handlers. You got a length on the perimeter, right? But at least one of those guys should be the ones bringing it into the front court, right? It cannot be Vucevic. It cannot be your center when you have 4 ball handlers out on the court right now. That is unacceptable. That is just not good by Billy Donovan at all. It's also just poor awareness by the players. Just poor IQ in that situation. Not very good to see by the Chicago Bulls. And hopefully that gets fixed. Because, again, I just don't think Vucevic should be anywhere in this play at all. I think you need to send him out and go play, just have him under the rim. Take his defender with him. Because that will just open up more space for this team. And then, these 4 guys on the perimeter, they should be good enough to get open and use their speed and athleticism to get it into the front court. They're all 4 ball handlers. Like, this should not be much of an issue, but we're seeing that there is an issue. Now, other thing I want to talk about is this. Now, I just said that Lonzo is a ball handler, and he is, but we have to admit here that when it comes to crunch time, I've said this before, Lonzo doesn't really become a ball handler at all. Like, he's not going to be touching the ball. This dude becomes a wing player. He's a catch-and-shoot three-point guy. That's what Lonzo becomes in crunch time. And it's understandable because he doesn't have that good of ball security. Part of the reason is because he is 6'7" or 6'6". He's just bigger and taller. And smaller guys like Van Fleet can easily swipe the ball from him. So that's why a guy like Caruso is so valuable to this team, because he is a little bit shorter, but he has a little bit better ball security. But Lonzo just isn't going to be a dude handling the ball that much down the stretch. He also seems to kind of panic in crunch time. He doesn't really seem to know what to do. So, we don't need to have him handle the ball. He's a good enough three-point shooter where he can just kind of be a cutter and a spot-up three-point shooter in crunch time. That works out perfectly fine. Now, let's get to the good stuff here, which is DeMar DeRozan, right? I said this when the Bulls got DeMar DeRozan, that DeMar DeRozan is going to be extremely valuable to this team, and his mid-range game is going to be crucial for crunch time for this Bulls team. And I've been saying it since the beginning that Lonzo is not going to be the dude handling the ball in crunch time at all. And you're going to see him stand in the corner or stand on the wing, as you're seeing right here, because the man that should be handling the ball and initiating the offense is DeMar DeRozan in crunch time. His ball handling skills is just much better than Levine. I trust him more. I think his IQ is better than Levine in these types of situations. But main thing also is that we're playing him at the 4. So that forces one of the front court players for the opposing team to actually have to guard him on the perimeter. They're not going to be that good at trying to get steals and stuff. They're not as quick. They're not going to have the best hands, right? Even OG Anunoby's a great defender, but he's not going to be a dude that's going to be stripping the ball from him, right? And I trust DeRozan's ball handling much more than Lonzo and Zach right now, and especially in crunch time, right? So DeRozan should be the one handling the ball in crunch time, and then we should be looking at potentially getting the ball to Vucevic or potentially getting the ball to Zach, right? But DeRozan should be the one initiating the offense. Now, let's say DeRozan is getting an easy shot, he gets a mismatch or whatever. Yeah, he should let him go, and that's the luxury the Bulls have right now with DeRozan, is that you have a dude that can take so much pressure off Levine, and if Levine is being heavily guarded, that guy can go get a bucket by himself. I've been saying this since the first day that the Bulls got DeRozan. All these critics were like, oh, why would we sign DeRozan? Or why did the Bulls sign DeRozan? It's such a waste of money. He's not a good three-point shooter, blah, blah, blah. He's getting old. He's not valuable at all. What is he going to bring to this team? They question his fit. I'm like, this is why DeRozan is here in the Chicago Bulls uniform. This exact reason right here is because we saw him save the Bulls today. And if you were questioning the DeRozan move, just admit that you were wrong right now. Because this is why DeMar DeRozan's here. And he absolutely just saved the Bulls today. And he's going to save the Bulls multiple times this season. No doubt about it. He is an incredible ISO player, and his ISO and mid-range game is just so valuable in crunch time. And I'm going to show you why right here. So, as you can see right here, the Bulls, it's 4:31. I always consider under 5 minutes crunch time. That's just how I personally view it, because we just see the game slow down so much once it goes under 5 minutes. Now, one thing that's already bad, and this has been kind of what was happening already throughout the fourth quarter, was we see that 10 seconds on the shot clock. Now the Bulls are just getting into their offensive set, which really is not even an offensive set. But that's too late. You need to get into your offensive sets quicker to get a better quality shot. But luckily we have a dude in DeRozan who can go and get his shot whenever necessary. Also, to keep in mind, the Bulls had 97 points right now. I believe they had 97 points with 7 minutes left. in the fourth quarter. Like, it was just that bad for a while. Like, the Bulls could not score. So, luckily, Donovan finally put in DeRozan. I thought he put DeRozan in a little bit too late. Probably should have brought him in at, like, around like the 6 or 7 minute mark of the fourth quarter. But he got him in at least just on time to come in and score this bucket here. And just simple pick and roll with Nikola Vucevic, top of the key. Big thing right here is that you want DeRozan to get a mismatch. OG Anunoby is by far the best defender right now for the Raptors, and he's also a bigger dude than Scottie Barnes, who's guarding Vucevic. So if you're DeRozan, you want Scottie Barnes guarding you, because one, he's rookie, but two, he's just smaller. He's not as big as OG Anunoby, so DeRozan can take advantage of that matchup. And right here we see pick and roll, top the key. And even though that DeRozan isn't that good of a three-point shooter, we're seeing how far up they play, right? It's just because of his driving ability and mid-range game is still such a threat that you have to play up on him, right? And just that itself forces a switch, right? So now we got Scottie Barnes guarding DeMar DeRozan. We got OG Anunoby then guarding Nikola Vucevic. Now this is a good job by Vucevic right here. He goes down into the paint. He basically kind of seals off OG Anunoby, which is good. That's good for a couple reasons. One, as you see the play develop here, you're about to see DeRozan go into his spot. So you do not want OG Anunoby to come on over and double DeRozan at all, or be able to contest the shot at all, right? You want DeRozan to have this one-on-one matchup, and stealing OG Anunoby with what Vucevic just did was very, very good. And number two, let's say DeRozan just doesn't have a shot. Like, let's say Van Fleet kind of cheats over, makes DeRozan pick up the ball. Well, then you have a mismatch right here, right? And Vucevic is already in position, deep position, to catch that ball, you know, and then he can just go, and hopefully once he starts making some pinch shots, you know, that's an easy bucket for him. But as you can see right here, Vucevic completely takes Anunoby out of the play. The Raptors are too scared to leave LaVine, obviously, for obvious reasons, right? So you see Van Fleet doesn't even cheat over. And then DeRozan, one-on-one Scottie Barnes, gets to the free throw line area, and this is just simple play by DeRozan. And his mid-range game is going to be valuable for this Bulls team in crunch time, as you saw right here. Now, other thing that the Bulls can be doing in crunch time is, you know, I've said this earlier, is that DeRozan can bring up the ball, but then he can also just be the play initiator and then get the other guys the shots that they're looking for, right? One of the things last year with Zach LaVine was such an issue was that Zach had to do everything, right? Zach had to bring the ball up the court, he had to get past the full court pressure, then he had to get the offense in their sets, and then he had to run the play. Then not only that, then he had to score or find the dude that got open, right? That's just so much pressure for one guy, right? Now, Zach LaVine doesn't have to do all of that. Now DeRozan can handle the ball, bring it up the court, right? But then Zach can then move off ball and become a threat like that. And then if he gets the ball, then he didn't exert all that energy trying to bring the ball up the court and do everything. He can just take the shot or drive right to the rim. It's just so much simpler. And if LaVine is going to get so much attention, which he is in crunch time as we saw in this game, then this dude right here can go ahead and score, right? So in this possession, though, we saw DeRozan kind of bring the ball up in this play, but we see them swing it over to Vucevic, and, you know, Vucevic is being guarded by Scottie Barnes here. Mismatch. This is also a mismatch right here if the Bulls want to exploit this. But one of the things that the Bulls can do in crunch time is go to the post. When the game slows down, it is hard to get ball penetration into the paint. It is just one of the hardest things to do because defenses really lock in, see a lot of switching involved, right? But another form of ball penetration is posting up. It's one of the easiest forms of ball penetration because you don't have to exert so much energy just trying to get into the lane of the defense, right? You're just able to throw it down into the post. And now, as you can see, the ball now is no longer in front of the defense. Now you see guys, they have to turn, right? That's what you want in this situation. And the Bulls, with these two guys, with their ability to post up, and even LaVine now, like, they're so good that if it's a one-on-one matchup, they can easily just take the shot and score, right? But let's say the opposing team doubles or kind of cheats over or brings help. This team now has shooting. They have multiple options for guys to score. You have multiple guys to just explode to the rim. That posting up is going to force the defense into a really tough situation right here. And this is a prime example. As you can see, this is a mismatch right here. So Vucevic can easily score over Scottie Barnes. But Anunoby sees that. He kind of cheats over a little bit. But because he cheated over, look who's open. Zach LaVine. And Zach LaVine didn't have to do everything in his possession. So now he just becomes a catch and shoot shooter, which he's very good at doing. And he hits a three. This is what I'm hoping to see more in crunch time for the Bulls, because I don't want to see Zach LaVine have to do like exert a lot of energy just to get a shot, right? You have three guys out there that can really all post up, or they can all get their own shot at any point that they want, and you better use that to your advantage. So that's just a good, good shot, or good overall play, even though there's only 5 seconds left, and good look from Zach LaVine, and he hit the shot. So just overall good. Hopefully see more of it. Keep in mind, though, the Bulls were up by 10 at this point. As you see right here, like the Bulls were up by 10 with 2:33 left. Or at that point, it was 2:40 left. It's like this Bulls team should have just easily won this game. You're up by 10 with 2:40 left. And somehow it came down to the last shot by Van Fleet missing the shot. So overall, like that's just bad just when you think about it, right? Now, one of the other issues that we were starting to see in late game situation was poor execution defensively. It wasn't just offense, it's also defense. In this play initially, we don't get to see it, but the Raptors, they kind of swung the ball around, and then Precious up here, he got a wide open 3-point shot. But luckily, Vucevic was smart, and he's like, no, let him shoot it. That's smart. Even though Precious made a 3 earlier in this game, I would much rather have Precious be shooting a crunch time shot than a guy like Van Fleet, right, or a guy like Gary Trent. I want this dude shooting the shot. But we let him just have all the space in the world. He did not take the shot. So now he swings it over to Brett Van Fleet. Now, here's the thing. This was initial good defense by Vucevic because he just stayed back on Precious. Like if you close out on Precious, that's a dunk waiting to happen. But now, once the pick and roll started happening, this was just bad defense by Vucevic. So simple pick and roll, top of the key, and we even see like LaVine gets through that screen pretty easily. Like that's actually a pretty good job by LaVine here. He stays on Van Fleet's hip, but the main problem here is that Vucevic is too far back. Vucevic needs to be up here because right now he's basically giving Van Fleet all this room into the free throw line and a couple steps into the paint. Vucevic can't allow that to happen. He needs to be stepping up here because this allows then LaVine to like get square with Van Fleet again. Then Vucevic can come on over and get back to Precious. But other thing too here is that DeRozan probably should have helped in this situation. Now I've said this earlier before that top of the key pick and roll defense for the Bulls, we do not see the weak side, which in this case is DeRozan. We do not see them help a lot. It's just not what Billy Donovan wants. So maybe this is the right idea from DeRozan, but this is just poor initial defense by Vucevic. You see Caruso's coming in as well. If Vucevic is up here, that forces then Van Fleet to run into Caruso. And that's just better overall. You want that to happen. But because Vucevic is so far back, you see Van Fleet can easily get to the free throw line, and Zach LaVine isn't 100% able to get in front of him, lob up to Precious, and it's an alley-oop. As you can see here, that's a pretty quick score. So if you're the Bulls, you do not want the Raptors to score fast. You want them to work for that shot. You want to kill time as much as possible. So defensive execution wasn't good either. Now, after I talked about all the bad stuff, and that was the last bad thing I want to talk about, I want to talk about some good stuff here. I don't have the Lonzo inbound pass pulled up. Actually, I believe it's right after here. Let me go do one more bad thing here, because this is the Lonzo inbound pass that a lot of people saw as well. There's just a lot of bad stuff going on here too. First off, I think Lonzo could have passed it to Caruso right here. He didn't. So that's just, that's on Lonzo. He needs to just be aware of that. Number two, I do think DeRozan's kind of available right here because there is no other defender in the area to intercept like a lob into him, and he has a height advantage on Van Fleet right here. So I think that was also an option for Lonzo to throw it in. I did not like the play initially. That was, once the Bulls kind of tried to inbound the ball initially, we saw like LaVine kind of cut up into here, try to get the ball. He wasn't open. And then we see Caruso kind of come on over. Lonzo didn't give him the ball. I thought DeRozan is right here, is open right here, but that didn't happen either. So Lonzo didn't pass it to Caruso, he didn't pass it to DeRozan, and then he instead passes it to Vucevic. Now, here's the issue. I don't understand why Vucevic is in the backcourt. Like, if you really needed a release valve, you need to take advantage of one of these guys' ability to be fast and use their speed, right? don't try to take advantage of Vucevic in the backcourt. Like, this is just like a disaster waiting to happen. You do not want your big man in the backcourt right here as a release foul. This is just bad play by Billy Donovan. And I think Vucevic needs to be up here, because when you have a big man, one of the things you can do is that you can have him like set like a screen like up here to have like a little flare action. So that you see, like, let's say it's like Levine. Vucevic sets a screen right here. You see Levine kind of come on over, but that will open up Vucevic right to the ball. And because Vucevic is such a big body, you want to take advantage of that. So you just throw it up high, but you have to throw it quick, right, and fast enough. But it's high enough so that Vucevic is the only one that can catch it. Right here with Lonzo, you see that he kind of lobs it in. That's not the idea here. He's not being guarded by anyone in front of him right now. So he doesn't need to lob it over somebody. He just needs to get it to Vucevic and just dart it to him. But instead he lobs it, and he airmails it, and it's, you know, what the rest happens, Scottie Barnes dunks it. Like, there's just so many things that went wrong there. Like, I think Lonzo didn't make the right decision initially. But then when he tried to give it to Vucevic, which he's not, I don't think Vucevic should be there in the first place. Like, it's just, that's a horrible pass. Like, that's just not a good decision by Lonzo at all. So, inbounding could definitely use some work as well. Donovan needs to work on a lot here. But now I want to get to some of the good stuff. DeRozan definitely deserves MVP for this game. Like, we don't need to, like, I think Lonzo had a great first half, but, like, no doubt about it, DeRozan deserves MVP. Even though he didn't shoot like that efficiently, we just see that, like, his free throw attempts and his late game clutch shots, like, that's the reason why DeRozan's here, and he's so valuable to his team. So I'm going to show you play here, third quarter. That just, I think it's a really good play by Donovan right here. This just takes advantage of DeRozan's ability to work the mid-range game and get into the paint very easily. You see Zach initiates it here. He brings it up to right about here, and DeRozan's just kind of like hovering into the paint. But then we see Zach give it to DeRozan, which is what, you know, a lot of people, some people call this the pinch post. I call this the high post, or like the elbow area. But this is DeRozan's game, right? This is 15, 18 feet. This is where DeRozan's at his best. So this is where you want to get DeRozan the ball. He didn't get the ball at the top of the key. He got it here. So he could take this shot. He could do whatever. And just look how much spacing he has, right? He has this entire space just to kind of work on OG Anunoby. Other thing to mention here is, look at what the spacing is, right? We put Vucevic out here in the corner. Reason being is that we don't want Precious to be in help position, because we want to give DeRozan the ability to drive into the lane. And if he does drive into the lane, we do not want the help defender like a big man to be able to come and block his shot. So this is a good idea to put Vucevic into the corner to take Precious out of this play. Instead, you have Patrick Williams stand baseline and not Vucevic. And that then puts Gary Trent Jr. as the help man, but he's not a shot blocker, right? So that's a good job by Billy Donovan right here. Also, Levine and Lonzo standing in these two positions just perfect, because they're the best three-point shooters. Look how much space DeRozan has to work with, man. So this is just a one-on-one matchup. DeRozan on an island with Anunoby, and it's just simple for him. When you give DeRozan this much space to work with, simple. It's just simple game for DeRozan. He could have taken the shot, but instead it puts him in the spin cycle, and easy layup for him. Good spacing overall, and we even saw like Gary Trent Jr. didn't even come over and help, right? So that's a play that needs to be into the playbook. There's also another play that's very similar to that. It's like a little pin down action that brings DeRozan to about the same area, and like the high post, pinch post, whatever you want to call it. And I hope that we see a little bit more of that, because that can also be a play in crunch time that the Bulls can do. So it gets DeRozan the ball with a live dribble in the mid-range area, right? And just to kind of cap off how good DeRozan is here, I want to show DeRozan's playmaking. And, you know, when I mention playmaking on this channel, like, I'm mentioning people that can draw multiple defenders and create open shots for their teammates, right? Which is something that Lonzo just doesn't do, right? Lonzo, like, he's going to get the ball to his teammates. Like, if any of the Bulls guys cuts hard to the rim and they're open, Lonzo's going to get that ball to him immediately. He's a perfect passing point guard right there. But we know with Lonzo is that he doesn't draw multiple defenders. He doesn't create open shots for his teammates, right? His teammates have to get themselves open, and then Lonzo will give him the ball. But he doesn't create open shots for his teammates. But I'm going to show you a play right here where DeRozan creates open shots for Vucevic here, and honestly also an open shot for Javonte Green. But right here, we're going to show DeRozan coming off a pin down from Vucevic here. So you see pinned down by Vucevic, and we clear out this entire side. We're letting the two best players right now on the court just have that side by themselves. We move Caruso and Javonte Green over into the weak side, into the corner. As Javonte Green is moving, which is good while this is happening. We don't want these guys just standing there right now while this is happening. You want to occupy some of the weak side defenders, which Javonte Green is doing. When Javonte Green moves to the corner, you're seeing Caruso's already moving up towards the wing area, which is good. And then Lonzo then gives the ball to DeRozan, which DeRozan came off the screen not thinking shoot, right? We know he's not a shooter, but he wants to get his momentum towards the rim. So he kind of curls off the screen and gets the ball with all his momentum going towards the rim. Now, just this play right here, you're seeing what's being created, right? DeRozan hit just the threat of him is creating this open shot for Vucevic because he's occupying Vucevic's defender. That's the job of a playmaker, right? Is you want to occupy someone else's defender, not just your own defender, but someone else's defender. And he occupies Khem Birch here. Now, the Raptors have some options here. Like they could have switched this pin down action, but then that creates two mismatches, right? That would be Khem Birch and DeMar DeRozan, which is a mismatch, and then Fred VanVleet, who's 6 foot, trying to guard Nikola Vucevic in the post. Obviously, that's also a mismatch. So if the Raptors switch this, that's not that ideal for them. But instead, though, they also in this play they both go towards DeRozan. You see VanVleet is trailing DeRozan. You see Khem Birch goes with DeRozan, and then even right here, you kind of see Javonte Green's defender right here kind of cheated over from the weak side. So honestly, I'd say DeRozan occupied 3 defenders in this one play, which is the job of a playmaker, right? And he occupied these 3 guys to open up a shot for his teammates, which he sees that Vucevic is wide open, gets it to Vucevic from 14 feet, and Vucevic knocked it down. So luckily Vucevic, his mid-range game has been on point, but the rest of his game has not gone well so far. So hopefully Vucevic starts hitting like the inside shots. I'm not so worried about the 3-point shot right now because being able to hit the 18-foot shot is good enough for a center in terms of spacing. But hopefully Vucevic can start hitting the inside looks because we're about to face some teams that like go like really small ball, and we need Vucevic to be able to hit those layups in the paint. So just showing you another way that DeMar DeRozan's playmaking is just so valuable to this team and why he was necessary for this Bulls team to take a next step towards winning. So that's all I have for the fourth quarter and the MVP of this game, which is DeRozan. Overall, in this game, I want to kind of just talk about the other quarters a little bit. First quarter, I thought this Bulls team, or this game, was just going to be like a scrappy game. Neither team was going pretty good on offense. Like, both teams were like struggling offensively. The Bulls struggled more offensively, though. The score is tied at the end of the first. And that, was interesting to me because the Bulls did not shoot very well. The Bulls were shooting 33% at the end of the first quarter. The Raptors shooting 45%, but free throws was keeping the Bulls in the game at that point, and DeRozan had 11 points in the first. Zach LaVine did not score in the first quarter, which is totally fine. We're seeing Zach kind of let the other guys kind of get it going in the first half, but then he kind of brings it, he starts scoring in the second quarter and mostly in the third quarter, that's okay. But I just hope that he understands when the team needs a bucket that he needs to be aggressive no matter what time it is in the game. But first quarter, I was like, oh, this could be a scrappy game, low scoring type game. It was a really slow game initially. But then the second quarter hit, and all of a sudden, both teams' offense just woke up. They're like, oh, we're going to hit our threes. We're going to play fast. The Bulls got a 10-point lead. And the reason being is because they started getting a lot more deflections. And the difference was that they got a lot more transition points than the Raptors, which is why they got the lead. So it was a good second quarter. The third quarter, I mentioned earlier, they had a 20-point lead. They ended up having a 12-point lead at the end of the third quarter. So it was overall a pretty decent quarter, but the bench unit that usually brings that defense did not really bring the defense in the third quarter. So that was kind of the reason why the Raptors were able to cut into that lead a little bit. And obviously, we already talked about the fourth quarter, but right now the Bulls look pretty good through, like, in the second and third quarters. The Bulls just look great. But the first and fourth quarters right now, they just haven't looked so good in the 4 games that we've seen so far. So as we're now about to face the Knicks and a bunch of other great teams, that can't happen. Like, we can't play 2.5 good quarters of basketball and expect to win. We need to play 4 quarters of basketball, and hopefully Donovan can figure it out and we don't have another meltdown like how we did today, because that's not going to slide against some of the better teams. But moving on and looking forward here, the Bulls face the Knicks next. But in the next 13 games, the Bulls face 12 playoff teams from last season, and the one team that they don't face or the one team that wasn't in the playoffs that they face was the Golden State Warriors. So it's a really tough stretch for the Bulls in the next 13 games. So good thing they took advantage of the teams they should have won against, which they were up to a 4-0 start. But these next 13 games, which involves the West Coast trip, which is like the 6-game long West Coast trip, we're about to see where this Bulls team kind of where they match up with the rest of the NBA teams. So we're going to really see where this team lies, because hopefully, we can get rid of this whole meltdown situation, but we're about to have a serious measuring stick for ourselves to see how good we are as a team and what we need to work on moving forward. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit the like button if you're new to the channel. Hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Go Bulls. Peace.